Okay, so you got your new camera, you've covered your basics, and you've edited your first shoot in Photoshop or Lightroom, only to have your photography friends tell you they hate your edits, despite your clients absolutely loving them. See, I went through this as well, and it's frustrating because your style is what sets you apart from other photographers, and it gets you business, so what exactly is wrong with your edits? Well, in most cases, probably nothing. Don't get me wrong, sometimes the edits can just be bad. You used a bad color grading, or some preset from a YouTuber that you paid way too much money for. But I think it mostly comes down to the type of photographer you are. It took me way longer than it should have to realize that photography can be broken down into two major camps: objective photographers and subjective photographers. Objective photographers are people who like to represent reality in their work when it comes to their editing styles. They may adjust their exposure, clean up the images, and maybe mask a few things up, but beyond those basic edits, they really don't do anything else. They don't like to stray far away from the way that things look in reality. Think along the lines of sports, school, newborn, and architectural photography. They are trying to capture a scene as it is. Subjective photographers, on the other hand, tend to edit things the way they see it in their mind. They have a vision when it comes to what they're shooting, and they will edit those images to match the vision in their mind. They may use generative fill, or have odd color choices when it comes to their grading. And in most cases, I feel like they're trying to capture an emotion within their work. Now, there are subgenres within the objective and subjective photography markets, and I'm not going to do a deep dive into the iceberg of those options, but if you want to look into it, I'm sure they're there. Just be aware of this fact. Think of it this way: Picasso didn't paint like Monet, and Monet didn't paint like Edward Hopper. Every artist has a different process, technique, and methods when it comes to their particular madness. Sometimes artists are not fans of each other's work. And in fact, some of them straight up piss each other off. Not everyone will like your photography, and I'm not saying to ignore the criticisms, but maybe take them with a grain of salt, because if the photo is well composed, exposed, and your client is happy with them, the only gripe that somebody can have with them is your edits. I tend to lean heavy towards subjective photography, but that doesn't mean that I can't shoot objective photography as well. Photography is a spectrum, and a lot of people like to be tribal when it comes to their chosen interests. And if you were working on your own personal project with no clients involved, then there's no real wrong way to edit a photograph. You can make the ugliest thing on earth, but as long as it's selling and you're happy with it, who cares? If it's representing the message that you're trying to convey, and it makes people happy or think or talk, then other people's opinions shouldn't matter. Probably gonna get roasted by other photographers in the comment section though. But if nobody is buying your work, maybe take a look at those criticisms to see if they might have a point. Don't just stand your ground on a product that nobody else besides you is enjoying, unless you're trying to just do it as a hobby and for fun. I will say, though, that some objective photographers really absolutely hate subjective photography. I'm not sure who hurt them, but they're gonna take it out on you, man. Art is fluid and it shifts often. There were multiple different artistic movements that changed the style of the world throughout history. And there are some people who don't like to think of photography as art. They like to think of it as a service, and unfortunately, some of those people are photographers, which is one of the roots of why there is objective versus subjective photography in this world. It's a hard distinction, and sometimes the line can be blurred between subjective and objective photography. But that doesn't mean that one is wrong or less appealing than the other. Some people out there really love Jackson Pollock's work, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. But more power to them for enjoying it. And keep in mind, you don't have to stick to one of those teams. You can bounce back and forth all you want and show different representations of your skills within your work. I tend to bounce around a lot between objective and subjective photography. If it's a personal project, I'm probably shooting subjectively. If it's a hired out job that I'm working on, it is probably objectively. And as long as I don't let my personal work bleed into my professional work, then there's no reason that I can't do both of them. And if you take that same route, you might be able to pick up a new skill that you can use within each of the different branches of it. Use everything you can as a learning opportunity when it comes to photography. You never know what skill you're going to learn if you just change things up a little bit. If you're an objective photographer, try doing a subjective shoot on your own personal time. If you're a subjective photographer, try buckling down and doing some objective work. Everyone can learn something new every day, but sometimes that requires you stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I know there's a lot of people out there who don't like doing that, but I feel like if you do it, you might become a more well-rounded photographer with a wider skill set. That doesn't mean you have to parade your attempts out there for the world to see. Just keep it hidden away on your hard drive for a personal thing to look back on. Or throw it up on some website and try to sell it to people who watch your YouTube. All I'm saying is, be open to the experience of photography. If you cut yourself off from one entire branch of the industry, when it could be used to push your career even further than it has, I think that's a pretty big mistake to be making. So now you have to ask yourself, which branch of photography do you belong to? Let me know in the comments.